right. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeremy, and I'll be guiding you through some meditation today. If you're enjoying the content on the channel, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Also, if you ever have any questions or comments about the videos, feel free to leave them down below in the comments section. Always happy to have feedback or any tips, any suggestions, questions. Always looking for more ideas of what type of content I can create that will really help you out and the stuff that you want to know. Also, I am available for private meditation sessions. I generally charge $50 an hour, but I am open to negotiate. So just feel free to hit me up and we can work something out. Also, I accept donations for my teachings either by Venmo or PayPal, and you'll find that info down below. So again, decided not to do the live just because I've been having too much trouble with it, and people seem to really still watch and enjoy my last video that I didn't record live, so I think I'll just stick with that for now. We'll see in the future. We'll take our moment to light our incense. Okay. So today I'd like to talk about the Buddha and how actually the Buddha really was a social radical. So, again, kind of in line with the times and like what we're seeing now. And, the Buddha really pushed, a lot of standard assumptions of the time, and he challenged a lot of established institutions, through his life. And, the Buddhism really in a lot of ways was also a social movement. Again, oftentimes in the West when we think about Buddhism, it's like all like, heady meditation, philosophy, all this type of stuff. You don't really think about it being like a force that is active on the ground, it's sort of like ethereal up there. But really, you could even say Buddhism in a lot of ways was a grassroots movement, starting out at least. So let's discuss this and like how the Buddha was a social radical. Well, one of the biggest things that the Buddha challenged, that was part of the society at the time in India, again, approximately 2,500 years ago, is the caste system. And so, for those of you who don't know the caste system, traditionally in India, people are divided either into 4 or 5 categories based on their birth. And so very anti, or I don't know, just kind of the opposite of like the idea of Western individualism, right? Where it's like, as a person you were born and you have rights to live how you want. Caste system is very different. It's, no, you were born into this role into society and so you're going to fulfill it, basically. And so caste is very, very complex. There's all these different types of castes, but the 4 main castes that you hear about, and this this shows you something. I can rarely remember the Sanskrit names for these. So, I know a lot of people are like, how do I handle all these Sanskrit names? It's like, you just got to deal with it. And, even I struggle with it too. So, top of the caste system is the Brahmins, which most people in our culture have heard of the term Brahmin. It means priest. And that's pretty much what it was. It was the priestly caste or class. And they were considered, the most pure of all people, So they were the ones that they were put on top of society because they were the ones that connected to the divine, right? Number 2 on the list. So there's Brahmins, and then the second one is Kshatriyas. Now the Kshatriyas, it's designated as the warrior class or the ruling class, and those, yeah, exactly, they were the people that were meant to lead government, essentially. And that is the caste that the Buddha was born into. So, he was born a prince, and he was meant to be a king because he was part of this Kshatriya class. And then the last two, 2 or 3, depending. Again, I can't bring up the Sanskrit names, so let's just go. Priests at the top, rulers and warriors, number 2. Number 3 are the merchants, business people, essentially. And then number 4 are the servants that serve the upper 3 castes. And then below that, there's another category, which is the untouchables. And those are people that are just kind of on the edges of society. And they are considered, ritually impure, and oftentimes are, really trying to think of how to put this. It's not, let's just say it's not good to be born an untouchable in Indian society. So the Buddha was born again in this ruling class, and as his life story shows, he was born and he was given, at the top of privilege, like he could have anything that he could want. He could have any food, any entertainment, any pleasure, he had it at his disposal. But then he realized, once he finally was able to leave his palace, and when he went out with his chariot driver and they looked around, and he saw the suffering of the people, and he saw that people would get sick, people get old, and people die. And no amount of wealth, no amount of privilege is going to change that. And so he realized this universal nature of suffering, and that he realized, that anything that would distinguish one person from another, put one person in a hierarchy above somebody else, really didn't matter, because at the end, we all get sick, we all get old, and we all die. So nothing is going to change that. So that was one of his first big revelations, was whoa, we are the same. Because again, suffering applies to everybody. Everybody suffers, no matter what position you're in. And everybody's going to have the suffering of old age, sickness, and death. So Buddhism, when it started out, once the Buddha became enlightened after he left the palace, about 6 years later, he left when he was 29. He became enlightened when he was 35. I got 3 years until I'm 35, so got to put in the work, I guess. So he rejected the caste system, and said it doesn't matter what caste. First, he rejected his own caste. He left. He said, I don't want to be a ruler. I need to figure out how to end suffering. That's how I'm going to do it. So he leaves. He abandons his royal status and goes out as a religious mendicant, as a wandering religious practitioner, to figure out how to end suffering. So he rejects the caste system. And he also, he rejects the caste system, and in doing so, he challenges the Brahmins, the priests' monopoly on spirituality, essentially. Now, I'll just go ahead and say that the Buddha wasn't the only person to be doing this at the time, and it was actually a wide religious trend throughout India to kind of challenging these old Vedic, Brahmin, religious ritual belief systems. Because basically what that religion is about maintaining cosmic order. It's about, and this is about Vedic religion, not Hinduism in general, but just Vedic religion which was the religion of the time of the Buddha, basically says, what you got to do, they're the ones that the Vedas, the caste system comes from the Vedas, right? So they're like, order. All right, everybody has a place in society. Order. All right, you got to perform these rituals to maintain order. You have to do rituals to make sure that the sun rises and that the rains fall and that the crops grow. Order, 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 order. Buddha comes and it's like, all this order is nonsense. None of these rituals are going to prevent you from being sick, getting old, and dying. And these caste distinctions also not important, because at the end we all suffer. And so he challenges the Brahmins' monopoly over spirituality, actually. And he's like, because again, that was the also thing. The Brahmins were the only people that were allowed to read the Vedas. Technically, you're not supposed to read the Vedas. Well, at that time, you wouldn't be reading the Vedas because it was an oral tradition. The Brahmins were the only people that were allowed to learn and recite the Vedas. And so again, Buddha comes by and says, I have a way to liberate you from your suffering that doesn't require these priests. It doesn't require these, middlemen to get you to a state of spiritual enlightenment. You can just follow the Buddhist path. And again, we are following a teaching, but it's an investigative teaching. It's the Buddhists love to say this, that the Buddha is the only religious teacher to ever be like, challenge what I say, don't just take my word for it, challenge it. And Buddhists love to quote that. How often do Buddhists actually challenge some of the teachings of the Buddha? That's a different question for a different time. So yeah, that's like the Buddha. The Buddha really, his life really was about challenging these assumptions, again, of societal order, of the caste system, of these Brahmins that held the monopoly on religious beliefs and spirituality. So yeah, that's a bit about how the Buddha really was, in a lot of ways, a social radical. So yeah. So why don't we meditate a bit? We will start off with our standard body scan meditation. Please take a comfortable seat, whether it's seated cross-legged like I am or in a chair. If you are seated in a chair, I would just recommend placing your feet firmly on the ground. Also, make sure that your back is straight, but not rigid. Lastly, you can meditate with your eyes open or closed. And let's begin. So now we're going to place our attention on our feet. Begin to notice how our feet feel. Maybe they feel warm, maybe they feel cold, maybe they have a particular texture touching your feet. However you feel right now, however your feet feel right now, just recognize them. Become aware of them in this moment. All right. right, now we're going to move our attention up to our seat. Notice how you are held up by your seat and supported during your practice. Now we're going to move our attention up to our belly. Begin to notice the subtle movements of the belly as it follows the breath. Now we're going to move our attention up to our heart, to that space in the middle of our chest. Just feel into this part of your body and become aware of it. All right, now we're going to move our attention up to our shoulders, checking in with this part of our body. No need to change anything about your shoulders. Just become aware of them. Notice how they feel right now in this moment. All right, now we're going to move our attention up to the back of the head. Feeling the back of our head and checking in with a part of our body that we don't often notice or think about. All right, we'll move our attention back down to our feet. Noticing the textures that are touching them. Now we'll move our attention up to our seat, feeling the support. Now we'll move our awareness up to our belly, noticing its subtle movements. Now we'll move our awareness up to our heart, feeling that space in the center of her chest. Now we'll move our awareness up to our shoulders, checking in with this part of our body. And now we'll move our attention to the back of the head. All right, now we'll move our attention back down to our feet. Now we will move our attention up to our seat. Now we'll move our attention up to our belly. Now we'll move our attention up to our heart. Now we'll move our attention to our shoulders. Now we'll place our attention on the back of the head. All right, in just a moment I will ring the bell, ending our first round of meditation. Okay, per usual, I left my phone over there, so I'm gonna go grab it real quick so that we don't meditate forever for the next 2 rounds. I actually know how long we're doing it. All right, let's do the next round of meditation. This one will be about 4 minutes, and we'll be focusing on our breath. So just placing your attention wherever you feel the breath strongest. Generally, people will feel the breath either in their chest or their belly or the tip of the nostrils. So again, wherever you feel the breath the strongest, you place your attention there. And we're just going to watch the breath. We're not going to try to change the breathing in any way. Just simply watch the breath. Just watching its natural movements. So again, take a comfortable seat. Keep your back straight. And we'll begin with the ringing of the bell. So now we're going to place our attention on our breath. Wherever the breath feels strongest for you. Move your attention to that part of your body. There's no need to change anything about your breathing. Just watch its natural movements. And if a thought or feeling arises and you get distracted, just recognize that you've been distracted and gently bring your attention back to the breath. And if a thought or feeling arises and you're no longer watching your breath, that is truly okay. Just recognize that you've been distracted and gently bring your attention back to the breath. All right, in just a moment I will ring the bell, ending our second round of meditation. All right, I'll just take a quick little break. This time will be the same deal. It'll be a 4-minute breath meditation. But this time you're going to be on your own. I won't be guiding you. So just remember, the whole point of this practice is that we're focusing on the breath. We're watching the mind. We're actually watching the mind as it focuses on the breath. And once we realize that we aren't focusing on the breath anymore, we just bring our attention back to the breath. And you may have to do this 5 times, you may have to do it 100 times, you may have to do it 1,000 times, doesn't matter. Every time that you realize you're no longer focusing on your breath, just bring your attention back to it. All right, and here we go. All right, in just a moment I will ring the bell, ending our 3rd round of meditation. Once I ring the bell, I invite you to join me in a bow, dedicating all the merit we've accrued today to the benefit of all sentient beings. right. Again, I sincerely thank you for practicing with me today. Really means a lot to me. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them down below. Also, if you're enjoying the channel, please subscribe and like the video. Also, again, available for private sessions. Just reach out to me. Contact information should be below. Just reach out to me and we can work something out. All right. Again, thank you so much. I'll see you next time. Ugh, stuck.